just stick with you, you know? And this time on the deep dive, we're tackling one that's been bugging people for, like, what, almost 50 years? The wow signal.
It's a classic.
Right. Our listeners, they've been asking about this one. And honestly, I kind of get it. It's this whole message from the stars thing. Who wouldn't be hooked?
One of the biggest questions out there. Are we alone?
Exactly. And even with all we know now, all the telescopes and everything, that, wow, signal, it still makes you wonder, what if? We've got articles, old reports, even some magazine pieces ready to dig in, figure out what's true, what's speculation. You know how we do.
What gets me is how a few seconds of data back in '77 still gets people talking.
It's true. Okay, so picture this. 1977, disco's huge, Star Wars just blew everyone's minds.
Bottoms.
Oh, for sure. Gotta have the bell-bottoms. And in the middle of all that, you've got this astronomer, Jerry Ehman, at the Big Ear Observatory. He's hunting for aliens.
Well, not just pointing any telescope at the sky. They had a plan.
Right. They were being specific.
The Big Ear, it was tuned in to a special frequency, 1420 megahertz, the hydrogen line.
So why that frequency? What's so special about it?
Hydrogen, it's like everywhere in space, right? Most abundant element. And it gives off this faint signal, like a fingerprint, at that exact frequency. So the thinking was, if some super smart aliens wanted to say hello to the universe,
that's the channel they'd use.
It's like a cosmic shout-out.
So Eamon's looking for that among all the other noise from space.
Which is a lot of noise, believe me.
But then, August 15th, 1977, something weird pops up. And this is where it gets good.
This was before all the fancy computer screens we have now.
Oh, yeah. Old school tech.
Eamon's looking at printouts, tons of data, and he sees this sequence, 6EQUJ5. That's how the signal showed up.
And that meant?
A strong radio signal, way stronger than anything they'd seen before. Lasted 72 seconds. 30 times louder than the usual background hum.
And Eamon, he just writes, wow. Like in red pen, right on the printout. Can you imagine?
I'd probably do the same. And that's how this random bunch of letters and numbers became, well, AE signal.
But there's more to it than just the strength, right? That 72 seconds is important too.
Huge clue there. See, the Big Ear, it could only watch one spot in the sky for 72 seconds at a time because of how it moved.
So the signal, it could have been going on even longer and they just missed it.
Exactly. It's like catching the tail end of a song and you're left wondering what you missed.
Okay, now I really want to know more. So we've got a powerful signal at this special frequency, lasting longer than anything they'd expected. Does this mean we stumbled onto some alien phone call? Or is there another explanation? Part of me wants to just jump to aliens, right? But I know it's not that simple. So what are we really looking at here? What could explain this signal?
It's like a puzzle, and the signal's our only clue. We've got to rule out all the usual suspects first. And in astronomy, those suspects are usually natural, things that happen out there in space, no aliens required.
Okay, so scratch that whole alien laser beam idea for now.
Yeah. One of the things that can mess with radio waves is called interstellar scintillation. You know how stars twinkle? It's kind of like that, but with radio waves.
So the signal's getting bounced around by stuff in space.
Exactly. Space isn't totally empty, right? There's dust, gas, particles. And those can actually make radio waves bend and scatter or even make them seem louder.
Okay, so a faint signal could look strong if it bounces just right. But the wow signal, that was really strong, wasn't it?
That's the thing. For something like interstellar scintillation to make a signal that loud, the original source would have to be practically silent. And that doesn't really add up. Yeah. Plus, we've got much better telescopes now than they did back in '77.
So we would have seen it again?
Probably, yeah. People have looked at that same part of the sky and nothing. No.
Yeah.
Wow. Signal round 2.
All right, so no to that idea. What about comets? I've heard those mentioned.
Comets have a lot of hydrogen, which we know gives off those radio waves at that special frequency, the 1420 megahertz one.
So a comet in the right spot at the right time, it could make a blip like that.
You'd think so, right? But the timing's off. Researchers checked where the known comets were back then, and none of them fit. They weren't where they needed to be the culprit. Plus, comets, even big ones, they wouldn't make a signal that clear and strong.
Okay, so if it's not random signals getting louder, and it's not some comet zipping by what's left, time to call in the X-Files team.
Not quite yet. This is where it gets even weirder. Remember those articles you mentioned about the hydrogen maser idea?
Yeah, that was interesting. It's a new theory, right?
Brand new. And it could be a game changer. Basically, we're talking about a naturally occurring, like a natural laser beam in space.
A laser beam, but for radio waves.
You got it. It's called a hydrogen maser, and it sends out microwaves at that same 1420 megahertz. It happens when there's a bunch of energy, like from a star, hitting a cloud of hydrogen gas.
So it's like an amplifier making a faint signal super loud.
And the crazy part is, these hydrogen masers, they're real. They've been found in other galaxies. There's even some weaker signals from old data from that big Arecibo telescope. Remember that one?
Yeah, the one that, well,
Let's just say it had a rough time.
yeah.
But the data's good, and it lines up with where these hydrogen clouds would be.
Okay, now this is where I need things explained slowly. We're talking about naturally occurring lasers in space. How powerful can these things get?
Powerful enough to do this, it seems. And it gets weirder. Some scientists think that magnetars could be the power source for these supermasers.
Magnetars. Those are the stars with the crazy strong magnetic fields. We didn't even know about those back in '77, did we?
Nope. Magnetars weren't discovered until the 90s, so back then, nobody would even thought to look for something like that.
So we might have an answer that nobody back then could have even imagined. That's got to be frustrating for all the scientists who've been trying to figure this out for decades.
It's actually pretty cool. It shows how much we're learning about space. Even if it's not aliens, every new discovery gets us closer to understanding how the universe really works. That's what's so great about the WOW signal.
It's not just about finding aliens, it's about figuring out the bigger picture. I like that. So even if it's these, what were they called? Hydrogen masers?
Yeah, hydrogen masers.
It's still a pretty amazing story, right? It doesn't make the wow signal any less cool.
I'd say it makes it even cooler. It shows how much we've learned about space since then. Something that seemed totally impossible back then. Now maybe we have an answer,
Yeah.
even if it's a weird one.
It's like the more you learn, the more you realize how much you don't know.
100%.
Oh,
That's what science is all about. Every answer just leads to more questions. That's what keeps it interesting.
makes you wonder what Eamon would say about all this. Imagine trying to explain magnetars to someone back in the '70s.
They'd probably think you were making it up. But that's the wow signal, I guess. It makes you think bigger no matter what the answer turns out to be.
And it got people really looking, SETI research, that whole field. It got a big push because of the wow signal.
But no doubt about it, whether it's aliens or not, it made us better at searching. New tech, new ways of thinking, all because of that one blip on the radar.
And it wasn't just about aliens either. We found other cool stuff along the way, like those pulsars we talked about.
Exactly. One mystery leads to another, is how we learn.
That thing you mentioned from the Atlantic about the beacons?
Hmm.
It got me thinking, if we were trying to talk to someone across space, would we really just blast out a signal constantly?
It's a good question.
Hmm.
Think of the energy involved. Just shouting into the void, hoping someone hears.
Yeah.
Seems kind of wasteful.
Like leaving your porch light on all night just in case a neighbor from another galaxy swings by?
Exactly. Maybe, like the article said, we need to think differently. If there are other civilizations out there, maybe they're using something more efficient or something we haven't even thought of yet.
That's kind of mind-blowing, isn't it? What if we're looking for the wrong thing entirely?
It's a humbling thought. We're just getting started when it comes to space. So much we don't know. And the, wow, signal, it's a good reminder of that.
I like that. Well, I think we've given everyone plenty to think about today. Maybe it's not about having all the answers, Maybe it's about the mystery, the wondering.
It's about the journey, for sure.
Well said. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the WOW signal. We've got links to all those articles in the show notes, so check those out if you want to learn more. And until next time, keep looking up and never stop asking questions.